Hello, welcome to the last day of Power On Deliver Strong Innovation Week. I'm Amy Heiler, and I'll be your host for this session. Today, we are featuring the 2023 Spirit of Innovation Safety Excellence Award recipients. These Innovation Week sessions have been classified as training and are intended for Encore employees only. As a reminder, during the session today, if you have a question you'd like to ask, just type it in the chat located in the bottom right of your screen. And now I am happy to introduce this session, Last Ticket. We will hear from Cade Winters, West Texas Distribution Director, Rachel Kennedy, Administrative Assistant for Big Spring Transmission, and Nikki Sarmiento, Distribution Services Advisor for Big Spring Operations. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thanks for having us. Well, we'll just jump right in and kind of get started. I just wanted to take a minute to kind of set the stage a little bit of what this little project entailed and how we got where we did. And both Nikki and Rachel were leaders on our region safety committee. And, we, let me move it to the next slide here. Just to kind of give everybody a feel for this project, and certainly very proud of our grassroots movement of our local safety committees, and our safety committees tend to be a diverse group that represent all of the service centers in our area. We bring in people from groups other than distribution. We bring in, PMDS, we bring in measurement and all of our partner groups out here to kind of participate and add value to this group. And really it's the folks that are out there doing the work every day that are coming up with ideas about how we can better our safety performance and how to address certain issues and things like that. And so back in 2023, we did something a little bit different in our safety committee, which we felt paid some pretty great dividends for us. And what we did was we made these sort of task force groups that were given certain things to focus on in smaller groups, and so that they could get together more regularly and have discussions and work and gather data and do analysis and come up with ideas that were specific to a topic or an area or prior performance. And so Nikki and Rachel were a part of what we called our driver discipline team task force. And they kind of started out with trying to figure out some of the things that outside of what we might normally do, that where we might have opportunities, and really kind of pulling in some of their expertise and their education backgrounds gave us an opportunity to consider a lot of psychological type things that relate to driving and kind of learn more about how our brains work and how that might impact our driving either positively or negatively, and tips and tools and things to kind of leverage in that space. And so one of the things that led to this particular program was reviewing some of our prior year data and looking at the vehicle accidents we'd had, not just the preventable ones, but also the non-preventable ones, and trying to identify if there were any kind of trends or, consistencies or gaps in our training or in our performance that maybe we could solution. And they worked through that data and essentially kind of found opportunity to maybe try to address one thing in particular. And so I'll just that sets the stage a little bit. And really, I think, this program was not very complex or very technical in nature. It was just a good idea, in my opinion. And so I'll let Rachel's going to kind of walk us through the story of how we got to where we did and how we came up with this solution and implemented it, and the reasons behind that, and we'll go from there. So I will turn it over to Rachel.
everyone. I am Rachel. And I just want to kind of go over some of the things that we did figure out while we were looking at some of these common factors among the PVAs that we were seeing occurring. And some of these factors, well, we'll go over each PVA individually. So the first picture you see happened when the public vehicle was indicating they were going to turn, but stopped short of completing that maneuver, resulting in our company vehicle and our driver rear-ending the public vehicle. A very similar situation occurred with the second vehicle that you see a picture of. Same thing. They indicated a turn, took a little bit longer to actually complete it, resulting in a rear end with our company vehicle rear-ending the public vehicle. The third picture is a little bit different. This one is very similar, but different, a little different of a situation. So the driver, our company driver, was at a four-way stop, failed to yield to right of way to the vehicle in the intersection, resulting in our company vehicle T-boning a public vehicle. So then with, all that being said, we looked at some of the common factors and themes that we saw occurring. And some of those that we saw were all of these happened after hours. It was end of shift. They were headed home. A lot of these were like overtime hours and they were working long hours. So, of course, their focus and attention was probably affected by fatigue. Also, if their following distance had been increased, then maybe the incidents wouldn't have occurred. So then following distance was definitely a factor. And then also it was noticed that all the incidents were first responders in medium bucket trucks, and all the colors of the public vehicles were very similar. But it is very interesting that all of them were first responders heading home after working long hours, end of shift, kind of your brain shutting down, ready to get home. I'm sure they were exhausted when it's in sleep. So then, that causes us to ask some questions about root cause, which did fatigue play a part? I would say most definitely, because these guys work long hours, and I'm sure, mentally and physically exhausted is definitely going to be a factor in here. What is the mindset of the employee at the time of the incident? I know when I'm headed home, I'm thinking about all the things like I need to get done, or how ready I am to be home, or all the things going through my brain that can distract you from the task at hand, which is driving in this instance. Also notice that these incidents happened when driving home, all of them. So then that made us wonder if the familiar route played a factor, being overconfident because you know the route, so you don't have to pay as close attention. Why following distance wasn't maintained, and how that could have prevented these incidences. We also wondered if time of day played a factor, or visibility, because these were, I believe, early morning, late at night, something of the sort, where it wasn't bright sunlight outside. Can we switch to the next slide, please? So one of the common themes that we discussed that seemed to stand out to us was all three PVAs happened in company vehicles while they were on their way home after being released from work. And these are after hour work hours, not just their regular work day. So then, that caused us to look into some facts that are probably widely known, like the fact that 52% of all car accidents occur within a 5-mile radius of home, and 69% of all collisions happen within a 10-mile radius from home. So, I mean, that says it all right there. There's an increase of accidents happening within a certain radius of your home. And I'm sure that has to do with you being comfortable, feeling like your surroundings, you don't have to pay as close attention. So two of the main factors that we focused on was overconfident drivers. When they're on their way home, you essentially switch to autopilot because you're just chugging along. It's automatic. You don't even have to think about it. you can have your mind on other things and then still continue driving. But of course, that's what can lead to an accident. And then of course, like what I discussed a second ago, fatigue. And I know that is a huge thing that impacts, our guys that are out working in the field long hours, causing physical and mental exhaustion, which can lead to a lack of attention for safe driving, and can even lead to accidents, which are definitely, going to impact our safe driving. So then after we established these common themes, we ended up discussing how we could implement this immediately. And one of the things that we thought of is, why not use something we're already using? Because we already have a ticket assigning program, Mobile TC, where our field employees are assigned tickets. They acknowledge them, they en route them, they put in the time when they arrive and close out the ticket. So we thought, why not use the same concept for making sure our employees make it home safely? So then that's when we were like, well, what's something we can implement immediately to see if this is effective? And so we decided that we would use the last ticket concept. So it's their last ticket that they have to complete before arriving home. And essentially it's just a way to trick your brain into staying engaged until that last task is completed. And by the way that we figured we could do this was have, the doc releases the employee to head home. Before they head home, they're supposed to either email or text their on-call supervisor as well as their direct supervisor. And then once they arrive home, they are supposed to send another text or email to those supervisors to notify them that they made it home safely. And basically, like I said, this is just, we wanted to figure out a brain trick to keep that brain engaged. And by giving it one task that it still has to complete, even after their daily duties are done, they still have that task of driving home, which is very important. We want to make sure everybody arrives safely. And we do so much driving that it's important that we do what we can to make sure everybody makes it home safely. So then we found some goals and benefits to this other than just making sure everybody's making it home safely, tricking the brain into staying engaged until that last task is completed, where they send that text saying, hey, I made it home safely. There were some other benefits that we noticed, and it's a mental reminder to focus on the drive home. It's not time to disengage your brain and go on autopilot. It's time to stay on task until your final task of your shift is completed, which is your drive home, and make sure that everybody gets home safely, which I feel like is the most important thing in all of this, is just the safety of our employees. The on-call supervisor has visibility of resources, knows who's still out, who's already home. On-call supervisors get a confirmation that they arrived safely, which that gives that supervisor a peace of mind. They don't have to worry about them. They know where they are. And then it also helps the direct supervisor be made aware of employees available for duty the next day. Say they had rest time or something of the sort. They're already aware because that email was sent whenever they arrived home. Also, it helps track resources during storms and increased activity. We know who's home, who's still out because they haven't sent their text. It just helps with tracking who we have available and who we have on rest time. But that's pretty much it. Like Kate said, it's not something that was super technical or advanced by any means. It's just basically comes down to, how can we trick our brain into staying engaged even when, we're headed home, we're done for the day, we're at our, limit for the day. We still need to stay engaged and make sure we all make it home safely.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. Are you done?
Yes, I am done.
Yeah, I think just kind of to summarize, and Rachel did a really good job of kind of walking us through this thought process and how we got to this solution. But I think that at the end of the day, what we realized by looking at past performance was that somehow or another we weren't recognizing that the drive home was actually a job. It was a task. It was a part of what we do. And we're in company vehicles, and we're representing the company. And so that we had to figure out a way to bring that back to the front of our mind, or to recognize that we have a task still left to do, because I think it's just natural that most people, they get their last event and they cleared it up and they're done, or they completed their last work order, or they've finished up, they've been released. And so you just naturally sort of are relieved and you feel like you're done. But driving is such an important part of our job, especially field employees who are out there all over the system all the time. And really, we put 3 or 4 million miles just out here in West Texas every year on vehicles, and it is a job. I mean, when you look at the breakdown of time, of how much time we're on the road, how much time we're doing work, building facilities and things like that, a significant portion of our time is driving. And so we're truck drivers. And so we needed a way to make ourselves recognize that truck driving activity and getting ourselves home safely, which is what it's all about at the end of the day, is registering with us, and that we're making sure that we're in that right mindset, that we don't feel like we're completely done until we are truly done. And so we so far have eliminated that type of incident from happening. We hope that continues. And we may be looking, down the road at further enhancing this process and expanding it outside of just our organization. And I would just mention this because I think it's makes me proud of this team that worked on this, and thinking outside the box and really trying to solution things at the road level, like where the employees encounter this all the time, and solving their own problems. But this concept was shared with one of our peers, San Diego Gas and Electric, and they wanted to know more. And so our team got to spend a little time describing this process, much like we are now. And they are looking forward to implementing this same concept as they deploy a new ticket management system in their organization. So it's already gotten some legs and grown outside of just our little group. So real proud of these folks that work really hard. And for those that have been on these committees and stuff, they are a lot of work. You got to do your normal job too, but this adds a lot of value. And if folks who maybe haven't had that opportunity or haven't gotten that exposure, speak up and volunteer to support those type of committees, and I think you'll get a lot out of it as well. So I guess if there's any questions, we'll take questions. Otherwise, we appreciate everybody's time to share our little project.
Yeah, Cade, this is Roger Stevens, and I'm working with Amy on this, and a number of questions have come in across the chat, both to, publicly and kind of privately. You answered one of them. I think one of the first questions was, had there been any preventable accidents in the region since implementing this program? I think you said just a moment ago that was, there have not been. So you're showing some effectiveness, I suppose. Is that correct?
Well, let me clarify by saying we've had a preventable vehicle accident, but it was not this type of vehicle accident involving a after-hours employee on their way home. It was a
okay. And then you also talked about SDG&E wanting to implement something like this. Do you know of any other areas within the company right now that are trying to adopt this or really starting to show interest in it?
Well, outside of the distribution, I don't necessarily know that, but I have been talking to the other directors and, of course, Keith, and I think everybody's supportive of it. And so we're going to start looking at maybe how we could expand it and make it a little bit more of an automated process in the future that could be leveraged by everyone.
And again, how long has this program been in place?
So I think if I remember right, we were analyzing our data from 2022. We implemented this in 2023. And so
Yeah, I think
it took us a while, but we got it up and running. And so it's been about a year, I would say.
Mhm.
I think I remember helping you gather that data back at one point. So,
I bet so.
how have the employees responded to it? Were they very receptive?
I think I mentioned in the beginning, this is kind of that grassroots efforts, right? It's by the employees for the employees. And so generally speaking, I think people got on board, and it takes a little time to get used to a new process and making that a habit. And so it took a little time to get up to speed, but generally we've got employees that care about their own well-being and safety, and this seemed like a very good idea to most of our folks, and it's been a positive thing.
Well, has this effort towards the last ticket maybe spurred on some other types of improvements?
Well, that's a good question. I think we've carried on that structure in our safety committee of having sort of little task force to look at specific things and try to really build a team around looking at past performance, our challenges, our opportunities, and trying to solution those things based on reviewing them, kind of a deep dive into them. So I would say I'm looking forward to what comes out of the group this year, for sure, as they come up with new ideas. So.
Right. Well, I guess most importantly, since this is a Spirit of Innovation Award winner, when did you realize it was a big deal and a great nomination?
Well, I guess me personally, I didn't necessarily think that way. We get a lot of good ideas that come out of our safety discussions and our groups and stuff like that. And so this kind of felt like business as usual for us, but then to be recognized and really when another company is like, hey, we like that idea, we want to do that. That probably kind of where it hit home for me. I don't know, Rachel, Nikki, y'all have any thoughts there?
Yeah, last year when I did that interview for Sempra, that was the biggest thing that I took home from that was like our idea spread. Our idea was so good that another company immediately wanted to take it on. Like that shows like just anybody can make any waves at our company.
That's a great point. I don't see any other questions in the chat, and I haven't received any other questions privately. Amy, have you got anything else?
I'll just close this out. Thank you, Roger, and thank you to our guest speakers, Cade, Rachel, and Nikki, and everyone on this session for supporting our culture of continuous improvement and innovation. If you'd like to view this session again or share with a coworker, please visit the Innovation Week website next week and look for the recording button. All of our sessions from this week, other than our town hall with Al and I, are available to rewatch. If you have any questions regarding Innovation Week, you can visit the site or send us an email at pods@encore.com. And we hope to see you in our last session at 2 o'clock to hear about telematics. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.